no silent classrooms.
Yes.
Okay, no silent classrooms. They have to talk. They have to interact with the content. They have to talk to their neighbor.
Yes.
They have to use the languages. Los dos.
Okay.
Would be my great grandfather. Is actually from Mexico, because at one particular point in time, Texas, especially the southern parts of Texas, was actually Mexico. And so just kind of the customs, the Mexican customs, tamales, I've always had that in my life. I have piñatas at my birthday parties, so I've had influence of Mexican culture. I know it's always shocking, porque yo soy una morenita.
Muy bienvenidos, bienvenidas, bienvenides a nuestra plática pedagógica. Tengo el honor de estar con la doctora Rowe. Ella ha sido maestra, administradora, entrenadora de maestros, podcaster, un poco de todo. También tiene su doctorado en liderazgo transformativo, así que tiene bastantes consejos y conocimientos para compartir con nosotros hoy día. Entonces, muy bienvenida, muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros, la doctora Rowe. ¿Puedes contarnos un poco de ti y cómo llegaste a trabajar con niños bilingües emergentes?
Entonces, hola, es un gran placer para platicar contigo y todas las personas que están escuchando ahora. Gracias. Y sí, me llamo, mi nombre formal es doctora Ronica Jacobs, pero por mi podcast, me presentarme es doctora Rowe o Dr. Rowe. So, sí, yo soy un educadora y por más de 20 años y yo hice todo. Pero mi posición favorita es entrenadora de maestros, de personas. Es porque es enseñando, ¿verdad? Todavía es enseñando. Entonces, yo soy una persona quien está ofreciendo el apoyo a todos los maestros, especialmente en la área de bilingüe, para to help our students, right? That quien la primera, el primer idioma no es inglés, es un idioma diferente. And, but I find that's my favorite out of all the things I do at my job. I mean, writing curriculum and, meeting our newcomers, los recién llegados a los, para a los Estados Unidos, and meeting the parents and working with the students and graduation plans. But when I get in front of teachers and share, all of the different, life, like just the life journeys of our students, right? And the different strategies, estrategias, para los maestros, just like, helping them understand that no es necesario para traducir toda la palabra en los sujetos, because a lot of them think I'm supposed to translate every single thing to my students, and that's how they understand. And I'm like, no, you don't have to. And many teachers say to me, well, you speak Spanish, so it's easy for you to teach. And I said, well, when I was a newcomer teacher, yo tenía estudiantes que hablaban vietnamese and japonés y francés y muchos idiomas. And I don't speak any of those. I mean, I'm learning French right now.
Great.
So I can support my French program. But yeah, so I told them, but actually, and all those students, they learn English, right? So it is possible. And I wasn't going around translating everything into Vietnamese. Absolutely not.
I love it. And it goes back to the name of the game is comprehensible input and how we can
Sí,
use those strategies
absoluta. Ujú,
to
ujú.
create comprehensible input and keep that effective filter low, right?
Yes,
Where kids
absolutamente.
have
Yes,
that confidence and feel safe to
yes.
learn more, right? I love that. I love
Mhm.
that. And that goes to, I can already hear how you told me in the green room before we started recording that you went from primaria a secundaria y ahora
Sí.
se nota en las conversaciones que estás teniendo con los
Mhm.
educadores, se nota que ese cambio, ¿verdad? ¿Y cómo ha sido
Yes.
el cambio de primaria a secundaria ahora?
Había mucho aprendizaje. Oh my gosh, I had to learn so much because um, that was my background was elementary education. I was a first grade teacher and then a kindergarten teacher in fourth and fifth grade. Now I did teach seventh grade math in St. Louis for a short time. So I did have a little bit of experience working in secondary and working in a middle school. But most of my career had been in elementary. And so when I was asked to take on the position, because the district was like, we need help and we know your background, but we want you to support high schools. And I was like, high schools? Now, I worked with the migrant education program when I was with Con Región 4. And so I did know a little bit about graduation plans and STAR EOCs. And of course, instruction is instruction, right? And great instruction is great instruction. Estrategia, sorry. The strategies, they're pretty much the same, whether it's elementary, middle school, high school, adults even, right? Because I've done
Right.
adult ESL classes as well. And so I recognize that. And so I just kind of attached myself. So me pegué con la consejera principal in the high school. And I was like, teach me everything. Like, and I learned. And I mean, so I transitioned over the summer to the position after being a summer school principal. And for that fall, I just would ask question after question. I would research and read everything. Because also LOT or world languages was also new to me, right? So I mean, aside from being in Spanish class
Right.
when I was younger,
Right.
but that's about all the experience I had with it, but I had never, actually taught Spanish. I've taught English, which is still, language acquisition. But what I realized is still language acquisition, right? Es para adquirir, los idiomas, otro idioma. It's the same, right? And so I realized like I can apply the same concepts to support my LOT teachers. Of course, couple of things are different. Las temas for like the AP and all of that. And so I've been working on curriculum and so that's the piece that's been really cool because I thought I knew everything about language acquisition and and now I had this new opportunity. And so yeah, but understanding graduation plans, understanding students coming in and what credits we accept, what credits we don't accept as a transfer student, and having to para explicar a los, a las familias que, well, yeah, tienes, 17 años, but sorry, you're not going to, tú no vas a graduarte este año because you only have 14 credits.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like it's devastating to them. They're like, what? So where to graduate? And I'm like, well, not in Esteta, not in this estado, in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
There's, the credits and that's the requirement and there's no way around it at all. And so it's been a lot of interesting conversations that I've had to have with lots of families.
Yeah. I
So,
love
but
hearing about that transition. And that leads me to my next question, because I know a big part of your work is around resilience. And so he notado que que es algo muy importante en tu carrera y en tu vida personal,
Sí,
el
sí.
tema de resilience, que está al frente, al centro. Hay tantas formas que he visto que la resiliencia ha sido traducido al español. He visto resistencia, resiliencia,
Ujú, ujú.
elasticidad, capacidad de recuperación.
Recuperación, sí.
Entonces, ¿cuál es tu forma favorita de referirte a ella en español? ¿Tienes una manera favorita?
Ah, resiliencia.
Ujú.
Resiliencia, sí.
¿Y qué significa para ti y tu trabajo como educadora bilingüe o trabajar con educadores bilingües, estudiantes bilingües emergentes y sus familias y la comunidad?
Las cosas am, malas, a veces malas, no están entendiendo, right? That like they're gonna happen, van a pasar. And es afuera de tu control. Like, whether it's something horrific, like car accident, right? That maybe leaves you to where maybe you can walk shortly or not ever again, right? Or it could be simple things, just a bad fall, just a random, like you were just walking, and then you're like, te caíste. And now your leg is broken and you were supposed to go on a ski trip. Right, and it's just like, oh. And so and all of these things cause lots of stress within us, right? And so para mí, resiliencia es una persona quien puede um puede continuar in spite of these setbacks, right? And they realize that these setbacks don't define who I am. They're just moments in time, right? And whether they're within your control or out of your control, but you realize like you can still push forward and move on, right? You avanza, like you can you can like move forward, and you realize like it's just a moment in time. And yeah, they suck, and I like to call them life jacked. That's the name of my podcast, is Life Jacked. It's kind of like you get carjacked or whatever. Someone takes your car from you, and but someone has, or something, someone or something has kind of essentially like taken your life, and not taking your life like, están, muerto, but
Mhm.
just temporarily kind of hijacked you, right? Like, it's like, whoa, what happened? It's like, I'm supposed to be in control of my life. I'm supposed to be in control of what happens, right? Because I'm making decisions for my life. But life jacked is when someone else makes a decision for your life, right? Or something happens and it ends up changing the course, right? and the path.
Right.
And and so for me, it's recognizing like it doesn't have to be the end. So now you continue, you adjust yourself, right? So se ajuste, you adjust yourself, and then you realize like, um, given this new circumstance, what resources, los recursos que yo tengo, and you use those resources, or you lean on people, or you find, una moda diferente, right? To still move forward, right? And you realize that, if this is not going to last all the time, again, it's a temporary moment, although it feels devastating and it feels like I can't see on the other side of this, it's that rope. I can't see. It's this big boulder, and I just can't see what's next. But even in those happy moments in our lives, we still don't know what's next, right?
That's true. That's true.
Nadie sabe qué van a pasar, right?
Yeah.
So if you think of it that way, that's how I see resilience or resiliencia.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for explaining that. And then I see so many important dovetails to that in the school and the push for socio-emotional learning.
Yes. Yes.
For teachers and for, of course, our students, what ties our talk about resilience and the role it plays in our lives to socio-emotional learning?
Definitely, I do that with our newcomer students that are high school students. I gave the example of it's a 17-year-old student who thought they were going to graduate when they were in Honduras. Y ahora, in los Estados Unidos, in Texas, we're explaining and saying, well, actually, you're not going to graduate this year. And they're like, what? And so that could easily, as a 17-year-old kid, is like, okay, I'm supposed to be done with school. I want to go on to my next phase of life. And now you're telling me just because I came to the United States with my parents that that's not going to happen. And it's easy for students to just stay there and then just give up and say, you know what, forget this. I'm not even going to come, because after that 17, you turn 18, you really aren't required by law to attend school, right? And so I make sure that every single student, I talk to them and we map out a plan. We map out a plan on how you were going to get there and how you're going to graduate. And we make sure that los recursos, right? What are the options? What are the resources that are available? And we just continue to encourage them. And I meet a lot of them. I cheer them on. I'm excited. I talk to their teachers and find out their successes, their wins that they have, los ganos that they have, and I celebrate those, right? And then I also encourage them to get active. If you like to play soccer, if you like to, get in the band, be in the coro, get active in the school so you can meet friends and socialize. And then it can be a fun place to be while you're here. Right. And then the same thing when I'm doing a professional development with teachers, because a lot of teachers do feel like they're stressed. They're saying, okay, well, I have STAR that my students, or the EOC exams that my students still have to take. Y todos los exámenes están en inglés, puro inglés. Right. And then there's no supports, because remember, the students used to be able to use like a, bilingual dictionary. Nada más. And I find that even in my trainings, it's not just the pedagogy that I'm teaching and the strategies that I'm teaching. I also like to throw in things like, por ejemplo, no matter the process or no matter the thinking, I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. I just thought about it. That's not what I say. No matter the language, right? El idioma, the thinking and the process is the same.
Yeah.
The parts of a cell are the parts of a cell.
If you know what you
Whether
know.
it's in English, Spanish, German, we're all the same, right? And the process, for addition, para sumar, para restar, all of that. I mean, it's the same. And that's why I tell teachers, you don't have to translate everything. You just have to find that common ground. And then if they don't know this word in Spanish anyway, then they don't know the word anyway. So you teach it to them,
Right.
and you give them a picture, los imágenes, there's los dibujos, all of those things, anchor charts that you make in the moment, and engage the students. But I also, cheer for teachers. I always ask at the beginning of every PD, what are your celebrations? What are your celebrations? What are your wins when it comes to your students? Right? Like I ask them, let's celebrate that. And then we cheer. Like, actually, I engage everybody to cheer, they share and we choque la mano, like, let's go, dale. So, and just to get them to understand that you can do this, you can do this, you can teach these kids. They're just kids and they want to learn and recognize their struggles, that it is difficult for them. But let's not forget the human side of who we are, and let's not lose sight of humanity and empathy, right? And empático. We have to still be, empathic to our students, because it's stressful.
Yes, it is. It is. I love that. And those celebrating those victories that really came out when you were talking about working with students and with teachers, because it's so important that we see that every day we are getting up. Maybe it's like you said, sometimes resilience is built in the small moments.
Yeah.
And as teachers, we have to make thousands of decisions in any given day. And so it
Yes.
can become um, exhausting. And we keep hearing about self-care and the importance of self-care. And
Yes. Yes.
it's like almost holding a mirror up and saying, look at all the great things you're doing, right? And all the
Mm.
ways you move forward and move everyone forward. So I really
Yes.
love that. And, drawing on, como educadora por, como decías, más de 2 décadas, has tenido pues varios puestos como maestra, subdirectora de la escuela, entrenadora de instrucción, investigadora educativa, ahora con tu doctorado también. Pues
Sí.
valoro tus
Sí.
consejos y quiero saber cuáles consejos darías a nuevos maestros bilingües.
La paciencia
Mm,
para usted y también para los alumnos. I mean, that's really what it is y la grasa. Like, just give yourself grace. Because, or is it gracia? I can't even remember the word,
Gracias.
but,
Creo que sería, ajá.
yeah, gracias. Yes, yeah. This just giving yourself grace, and having patience with yourself and with the students, because, you know, as they, there's that saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And it wasn't. And I know that there's, because we have the t-test, and it really is supposed to be a growth tool, but of course we take it as an evaluative tool. And sometimes administrators use it as an evaluative tool, but really it's a growth tool, right? And it wasn't meant to be something negative, right? It was just meant to say, hey, it's a scale, it's a continuum. Either you're here when it comes to instruction, or you're here when it comes to instruction. And if you are here down at the lower levels of developing or all of that, then you take that and figure out what you can adjust to move down the continuum, right? But I say, you have to have patience and realize that the learning has to take place first for you and for the students. And you can't skip those steps, and you have to give yourself, like I said, the grace, to give yourself time to do the learning. And I would say learn all you can, and whatever PDs that are available in your district, attend them, right? And then do outside research, because the only way that you can get better at something is you have to practice it. Right? You have to practice it, and practice absolutely does make progress. If you think about anything you do, riding a bike, praying, I mean, cooking, all of those things, they only get better in time, but they get better when you do them.
Mm.
So, you're going to teach a lesson, and sometimes you're going to hit a home run with the lesson. It's going to be great. And the kids are going to really take in, the information. And then there are going to be days when you're going to teach a lesson and it's just not going to, la información no va a pasar los niños. It's not working, right? And it's going to happen. You're going to have those days. But if you give yourself grace, right? And patience, and even tell the kids, right? Because we have to teach empathy. And in order for our students to have empathy, we have to show them what it looks like. And we have to also be empathic towards them. And I think we lose that a lot of times, because we're under pressure. We're under pressure because it's like the test is coming. Grades are due, and SLOs, and all these things we have to do. And I got to do tutoring after school, and then I got to go to the staff meeting, and then oh wait, it's a fire drill. My God, it's like muchas cosas que interrumpiendo durante el día, right? And but again, it's having patience, giving yourself grace again, and even with your students, right? And there are going to be students who are not going to get it right away, right? Because if you think about it, especialmente para los maestros bilingües, you are helping students operate their brain in those idiomas, right? And just the same as we talk and, estamos platicando, and it's like, we're translanguaging, and students have to be able to learn that too. But again, it takes time, paso por paso, right? But you provide the opportunities for it to happen. So no silent classrooms.
Yes.
Okay. No silent classrooms. They have to talk. They have to interact with the content. They have to talk to their neighbor.
Yes.
They have to use the languages, los dos. And you can say, yes, you can say, okay, maybe like 10 minutes por 10 minutos, puro inglés, por 10 minutos, puro español, and challenge the students, right? And so you have to provide the opportunities, because we can't be bilingual unless we're using both of the languages, and we have opportunities to use both of the languages. I can't tell you how many times I've gone into bilingual classrooms and most of the instruction is in English, and maybe there's a couple of Spanish words. I'm like, that's not bilingualism. But also the translanguaging is acceptable.
Right.
But I also, in secondary, we don't have bilingual, not in my district, we don't have dual language or bilingual classes of course, in high school. But what I say to the teachers is allow your students to negotiate, right, in their home language, right? But then you have the expectation, para contestar in English, because the content is in English, the tests are in English, right? But however they need to negotiate the content or the information, if it is in their first language, don't penalize them for that.
Right.
Right.
If
Because
anything, they're showing that not only are they taking the content, but like you
right.
said, they're negotiating it and making it, they're processing it. It's actually
Yes.
showing a really high form of learning. And so I
Yes.
love that you point that out. And speaking of, I love that we are both non-native Spanish speakers in bilingual
Yes.
education. And
Yes.
so, ¿qué consejo das a alguien que quiere mejorar su idioma nativo o un segundo o tercer idioma?
You have to immerse yourself into the language, right? Same thing like I was saying, no silent classrooms, right? So and honestly, once you speak two languages, because yo estoy aprendiendo, sorry, francés también. And I'm recognizing like, I'm knocking it out of the park, because I'm realizing like a lot of the cognates or a lot of the, words that are in French are very similar in Spanish, or they're also similar in English. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I'm starting to get an ear, right, for the language. I haven't quite gotten the accent yet. The sounds are more nasally, so it's a little different, but I'm getting there. But I would say you have to immerse yourself in it, and that's why I say for our students, I tell them you can't just go home and then your television or your music or everything is all in Spanish, right? Or it's, and all in whatever your native language is. You have to listen to English. You have to watch television in English. You have to listen to English, songs. You have to watch YouTube and in English. Like you have to find and put the captions on, right? So that you can see, the words. But for anyone who's wanting to learn a third language, you can do it. And you just have to start in believing like you can do it, right? But the problem that happens is we put these strange like timelines on ourselves. Like I'm supposed to learn French in 30 days. And it's like, that's not how it works. It's not how language works.
Right. And how did you learn Spanish? What's your personal, Spanish acquisition story?
So as a matter of fact, I've spoken Spanish since I was a little girl. So my mother was a bilingual kindergarten teacher, and then so she learned Spanish because her grandmother spoke Spanish. Now, supposedly we have, because my mom has done the family tree, and we believe that there's, oh, I think it's our it would be my great great grandfather. Is actually from Mexico, because at one particular point in time, Texas, especially the southern parts of Texas, was actually Mexico. And what they discovered was, like, because we were trying to trace, and she wasn't finding anyone who was a slave, and in Mexico slavery was illegal.
Right.
So they had indentured servants, but they did not have slavery. And so that's, and so just kind of the customs, the Mexican customs, tamales, I've always had that in my life. I have piñatas at my birthday parties, so I've had influence of Mexican culture. I know it's always shocking, porque yo soy, una morenita, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, and it seems strange, but it's interesting when I go to places like Miami, or whatever. It's commonplace. It's not a big deal. I start speaking Spanish, and it's no one is like, no, it's no hay una sorpresa, like, oh my gosh, what is it? But here in Texas it's interesting. But there are, people in Mexico who are, morenos,
Right.
and Afro-Latinas are everywhere. And so as far as identifying, I do identify as Afro-Latina. No, I don't have, a last name. Well, of course, Jacobs is my previous married name from, I'm divorced now, but I still kept the name. But my name is Ronica, and yo tengo un acento sobre la I. And so that's how you pronounce my name. And but yeah, I don't remember not speaking Spanish, so I can say that.
I love that. I love that. So you te identificas como Afro-Latina. Obviamente, you're a heritage Spanish speaker, but would you say you learned both desde chiquita, desde bebé?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
However, now English is my dominant language, right? Because that's the one that I use most often. And I don't, of course, a lot of the family members that did speak Spanish when I was younger, they've all now passed on, se murieron. And so I don't really have as many people to speak Spanish to. Now my children, I have 3 boys. Now my middle son is rocking it when it comes to español. He made 100 just recently on his semester exam. I was like, eso no se debe decir. So I was like, I'll get one bilingual baby out of this house.
That's right. I love it.
So but my other 2, they do understand it. Entienden más que hablar. But they, but that middle one, I was like, yes.
Yo vi un artículo muy interesante y lo he compartido, pero hace un par de años en las redes sociales, que habla de los afromexicanos, que muy interesantemente, y es algo que yo aprendí, que siempre entendimos o aprendimos que las personas en esclavitud en los Estados Unidos, especialmente en los estados del sur, pues, ¿qué hicieron para ganar libertad? Pues viajaban a los estados del norte.
Sí.
Pero en este artículo habla de eso, que en México, que no era legal tener esclavos, entonces bastantes se escaparon al sur. Bastantes se escaparon al sur, se fueron a México, tenían libertad en México, y es no todas las razones, pero una de la razón que hay afromexicanos, y claro, también venían de, pues, in, the slave trade, right, to the Caribbean and to
absolutely, as they say, the African diaspora.
So interesting. Yeah, the diaspora is just fascinating. And I find it, yo soy bien gringa, pero yo tengo dos hijas. Mi bebé mayor, pues los dos se identifican como afrolatines.
Mhm.
And because my ex, mi ex esposo es afrocolombiano
Okay.
y hablamos español en la casa.
Sí.
Él dudaba, él decía, no, pues
Ujú.
todos mis amigos que tienen hijos nunca hablan español. Y yo, van a hablar en
Yeah.
español. Van a hablar en español. Um,
Sí.
ten fe, ten fe. Entonces yo dije, pues la clave es que siempre um, tienes que hablarles en español. Y yo voy
Sí.
a hablarles en español y inglés. Porque yo, siendo maestra de preescolar, yo tenía todo, yo sé más canciones infantiles en español que en inglés, o más juegos y más rondas. Entonces, yo tenía más experiencia con nenes chiquitos en español que en inglés. Entonces,
Ujú.
me venía muy naturalmente y, y los dos hablan español, um, yes, bien, bien chévere. Pero
Oh,
muy interesante,
qué
así que
magnífico.
tenemos esa red también en común. Um,
Ujú.
¿Y tus hijos también asistían programas de doble sendero?
No,
Ok.
no. Fort Bend does not have un programa dual. No.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
even
it's
more,
unfortunately they don't have one. And I was like, oh,
pues
yeah,
con más razón que tienes este orgullo, porque
yeah.
los míos sí tenían educación dual desde
Ah,
kinder hasta octavo.
excelente,
Así
excelente.
que teníamos ese apoyo educativo
Ujú.
para ellos. Muy chévere, pues gracias por compartir
Sí,
tu
sí,
experiencia con español. No estaba segura porque mencionaste clases de español en secundaria, entonces
sí,
asumí.
sí.
Al principio, cuando te invité a hacer la plática,
Ujú.
pensaba que eras afrolatina, asumía,
Sí,
pero
sí,
no estaba segura, así que gracias por aclarar tu linda historia.
ujú.
Very special. I'll have to find that article. I'm sure you have
Oh, I
articles.
would love that. Yes, sí, por favor, comparte conmigo. Sí, yes, por
Yes,
favor.
I've done some professional development, and it's just funny because, siendo bien gringa, I think I surprise people sometimes because I am very passionate about Afrolatinidad and
Yes,
and really the visibility of
yes.
Afrolatinos and the
Ujú, ujú.
contributions of Afrolatinos como decías, muchos dicen, ah, pues yo sabía que había afrolatinos en el Caribe, como en
Yes,
Puerto
sí,
Rico, pero en
sí,
México o
cubanos, sí,
en
Dominican
Centroamérica,
Republic,
and it's like, yes,
República, sí.
por todo lado, por todo lado. And so I did this professional development around afrolatinidad y cómo podemos implementar afrolatinidad en el currículo. Y yo aprendí mucho, pues preparando para ese desarrollo profesional, pero me encantó, me encanta. Así que,
Sí.
hablando de educación bilingüe,
Ujú.
quiero saber tu libro favorito en español o un
Mm.
libro bilingüe que has usado en el salón antes. Am, ¿Cuál sería uno de tus libros favoritos? ¿Infantiles o juveniles?
Ay, hay muchos, porque yo soy una persona que no está colectando todos los libros que yo tengo. And I'm just a lover of
Yeah,
books.
exacto.
Yes, yes, I have so many books, and now, of course, I've transitioned to Audible, and so I have about 100 and something books on Audible. It's ridiculous, but favorite book. Actually, my favorite. I don't really have a favorite book. Quién es bilingüe. I really don't have one, but I do have one in English that I love. And it's called We Were Tired of Living in a House.
Oh,
And I can't remember who the name of the author is, but my mother used to read that book to me all the time. That was my favorite bedtime story. It was called We Were Tired of Living in a House. And so it's this family of kids, like they just they had a lot of kids. So so they were tired of living in a house, and so they decided to like move to a cave, and they were all happy, and they were like all laying out their rooms and areas and decorating and everything, and then it would be like then the book would say until the bears came, and so then they had to leave. Because there was bears. And so then they found another spot, and they were like, we were tired of living in a house. And so we decided to live in a tree. Right. And so it was wonderful living in the tree until the birds kicked them out, and so everywhere they went, they lived at the beach, they
Oh
lived
my
in a
gosh, how
tree, they lived in a
cute.
cave. Yes, it's a wonderful, wonderful story. But it's a story about like really home is wherever you make it. And it's about being close to your family and that's really what home is, right? And says and so I really love that story. And because it's like we think we want something else,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and until this thing happens, right? And
I
then
love
we
that.
realize,
I'll have
oh,
to look for that book. And it
yes,
sounds
it's
like
called We Were
it's
Tired of
also
Living in a
fun.
House.
It's also fun,
Yes,
and it has that kind of predictive,
yes,
um,
pattern, right? Yep,
predictable
yes,
pattern, but then kind of
yes.
in a fun, surprising way. I love that.
Right, because there's always something that comes out of nowhere, right? And life jacks them.
Yes.
They
Hey,
can't live there.
who would have known that that planted a seed maybe when you were on your
Probably.
mom's lap reading
Right.
that book? You're like,
Yeah, yeah. But
so many
but
great.
that's it, that's exact. And I never even thought about that because whatever bad thing happened in this new, hogar that they were trying to, domicilio that they were trying to have, right? And like they realized something happened, and it's like but it didn't devastate them, right? They just said, all right, well, let's just pack up and then we're just going to go somewhere else. We're going to try this, but of course, eventually they ended up,
Yes,
back at home.
yes, I
But
love
yeah,
that.
you're right. You're so right.
She was
Mhm.
planting a seed. Little did she
Yeah,
know, too, right?
right.
I love it.
For
Thank you
sure.
for sharing. I have to check it out. Pues muchas
Yes.
gracias por estar
Oh, no
con
hay de
nosotros en
qué. It
esta
was nothing at
plática.
all.
Y
Yes,
pues
yes.
para
Thank
aquellos,
you.
oh, I'm so glad we had a chance to have this plática. So for
Yeah.
those who want to find you, um,
Yes.
because I know, que desean conectarse contigo o
Mhm,
apoyar tu
mhm.
trabajo, ¿cómo pueden hacerlo?
So you can visit my website. Yo tengo un sitio. It's just my name. It's just www.ronikaljacobs.com. It's simple as that. And you can find all of my podcasts, my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Resilient Moms Club. The two podcasts I have, Strive for More. It's Strive, the number 4, more, and also the new one, which is Life Jacked, the Resilience podcast. So you can find it on any streaming platform where you listen to podcasts. It's absolutely everywhere. And or you can just go to the website as well. I do resilience coaching. So anyone who is, experiencing a tough time, I'm not a therapist, and I like to tell people that. And I share that therapy, terapia, that's for healing, right? Healing in your past. But life coaching is for el futuro. Like thinking about where you want to go, where you're going next, right? And so that's what I support with, right? So I like to put that disclaimer out there. Yo no soy una terapista.
I love that. Well, I will definitely, for those of y'all who are watching via YouTube, I'll definitely have those links in the description. And thank you so much for spending this beautiful time together. And I look forward to our next
Yes.
conversation.
Yes. Oh, this was amazing.